Welcome to the Real Deal Fishing Podcast. I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
You're
How we doing?
Mikael today.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Once again, I am
We have to
Miguel
start
today.
over. We have to start over.
What?
Anyway, we got a special guest tonight. We have Mr. Kayak Mike, which is why Miguel has to go by Miguel. What's up, Mike?
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Good. We've been talking before the show about Star Wars and extra StreamYard features and dragging baits from a kayak and bumping and golden whiskers. But we're here tonight to talk to Mike about his YouTube channel and a cool thing happening online. We'll get to that in just a minute. Before we do, if you'd like to support the Real Deal Fishing Podcast, head on over to shoppalmettocats.com. Pick yourself up a coffee mug, a shirt, a sticker, decal. Go check it out. All the proceeds will go to support the Real Deal Fishing Podcast and Palmetto Cats. So if you like what you hear and you want to help your boys out, go over there and copy some merch. There's also a calendar on there. You can see all the upcoming YouTube tournaments that are coming up this year. There's a ton of them. Ton of people doing tournaments nowadays, guys. And sort of what we're going to talk about a little bit. But that being said, also check out our YouTube channel. We have the Real Deal Fishing Podcast YouTube channel. Check out Mike Murillo's Family Fishing. Go check him out and see some interviews with Lauren. And then, of course, our guest, Kayak Mike YouTube channel. You can find all of those links in the description on the YouTube channel. Go check it out. All right. Well, icebreaker question. I think Mike wrote that question down. A little bit about Star Wars. What was that question you had for him? His favorite what?
Well, I tried to get him to just tell me his single favorite character from Star Wars, but that's a trick because I don't think any Star Wars fan who's as fully, invested in it as we are can break it down to just one, maybe not even three. Because
Yeah,
then I told you three. Now, how many more did you name after three? I thought you were up to 7 or 8.
I might have been up to 7 or 8, and then
Yeah.
the more I think about it, it's almost like which is your favorite character per movie? That would be easier. That'd be a lot easier.
That's definitely more fair.
Yeah, that's a lot easier because I'll be honest, I love Anakin in 1 and halfway through 2. Hate him second half of 2, all of 3 because I don't like my main character to be a crybaby. You know what I mean? So it's like oh, I do love Anakin, but I love Anakin when he's a boy and halfway through 1 when he and all the Clone Wars. He's awesome in all the Clone Wars because he's a bad guy, not bad guy. He's a awesome hero, whatever. But I can't. I censored myself there. But man, I can't. I can't do it when he's crying in episode 3. It's just like you're no longer who I thought you were.
When if you're trying to catch up and you're wondering why we're talking about Star Wars on a fishing channel, it's because we were having some backstage catch up and just talking, and Mike and Mike discovered that they're both really involved Star Wars fans. So that started a conversation which snowballed into the show. So thought that'd be a nice icebreaker question. Mike, did you have a favorite Star Wars character? Or are you like Kayak Mike and you have multiple ones?
Oh, definitely like Mike there. I have multiple favorites. I definitely think that Vader is way up there on my list. Now, also too, because I have a daughter named Leia, and when she watches the movie, she says, "Hey, there I am," and then she says, "Hey, Dad, there you are. Where's your suit?" And I just tell her I don't have to wear the suit anymore. So she's 3. I'm sure this will all fall apart on me here pretty soon, but then Mike mentioned his daughter's born on May the 4th, and that just trumps anything. That's just amazing. I I would like to send her presents on her birthday. That's how cool I think that is that she's born on
Yeah.
May the 4th.
And believe it or not, the Force really had her. She was a preemie. She was over a month early.
There you
Oh,
go.
wow.
She wasn't. She it was not intentional. Like the
Have you checked
Force.
her midichlorian count?
Yeah,
Got
it's
to be
probably
off the
high.
charts.
Yep, it's probably high. Probably in between Yoda and young Anakin.
All right, we need to slow down the nerd before we lose people. So we're gonna turn the nerd down to simmer, and we're gonna get to talking about some fishing here.
Let's do it.
Mike, you got a YouTube channel called Kayak Mike, and unique name. Is there any reason in particular, or was it just common sense? You fish out of a kayak, and your name is Mike, so that's why you named it that.
It's a semi-long story. I'll sum it up really quick. When I got into trophy catfishing, I didn't have I actually had no social media presence. I broke my phone like 2 years prior, lost all my social media, never came back. And when I started doing all the fishing and checked out YouTube, trophy catfishing, obviously I found Justin. I found people such as Catfish Dave. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to get in these tournaments. I have to have some kind of handle somewhere. So I just made
Right.
a Facebook profile, and it was originally Kayak Catfish with the K and the C switched just to troll Justin.
Mm.
That's what it
Oh.
originally was. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make the second word Mike because Catfish Dave is Catfish his first name. So it's like a mixture of Justin Johnson and Catfish Dave. It's like a mixture of the two,
Wow.
which
Okay.
is ironic because I follow one a lot now and I don't follow one as much as I used to.
Wonder which one.
So
You don't have to answer that.
Oh, by
That's
all means,
awesome.
answer it.
Well, you
I
you
just
fish out of a kayak and you target catfish, obviously primarily. Are there any other species that you like to target other than bait fish?
love targeting cats. I'm going to be targeting stripers and well, I have to say wipers. I'll be targeting wipers here soon once I can get out. If anyone goes to my YouTube channel, I apologize. I'm normally at minimum 1 or 2 videos a week. I've had like 1 or 2 this year, but our conditions here have been unfishable. I try not to go
Now,
out
where is here? Where is here?
Southwest Ohio. So I'm in Southwest
Southwest
Ohio in
Ohio.
Cincinnati. I try not to go out in, I have a family and I try not to go out in the Ohio River if the conditions are too bad because I am in a kayak. And if the conditions are too bad here for a kayak, there's really no bank accessible spots that are really worth fishing either. So if you don't have a boat here, when the water's blown out and the rivers are blown out, you're kind of and it's cold. Now, if it was summertime, I can go to lakes. That's no problem. But all the
Right.
lakes are frozen over, so you can't fish in any lakes. But we don't get enough ice to walk out and ice fish, so
Right.
it's you're doomed there. And then the Ohio River's going 4.7 to 5 miles an hour with debris everywhere and ice sheets
Mm.
coming down it. So to get to the closest launch to any back creek is 2 miles away. So it's just the risk reward isn't there.
Yeah,
So I'm
that
just
makes
like,
perfect sense.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'll be targeting wipers and stripers my next fishing trip. I'm gonna have one catfish pull out, and I actually have them right here. I'll be using these things
Hmm.
to try and catch wipers and stripers.
And for the podcast people,
Blade baits,
what are you holding up there?
a blade baits.
A blade bait. So it's a gold shad shaped bait about
Hmm.
thumb size, and it has 3 treble hooks
Yep.
on it, and it's bright gold. And is it red eyes?
This one has red eyes, and it's
Red eyes,
0.38 ounces.
and
I
it's very
actually,
thin.
yep, it's
Very
essentially
thin.
just metal. You
Yep.
you just let it drop to the bottom, jerk it up really hard, let it drop back
Mhm.
down to the bottom. I was told in the winter, just let it sit on the ground a little longer than normal. It's winter patterns, so everything's slower. But when it's warmer, you can just keep on popping it off the bottom. And I was also told you want to go. So where I live, the back creeks are colder than the main channel. So
Mhm.
the bait fish want to get out of the back creeks into the main channel. So where are the predator fish going to live? They're going to live right at that temperature split. So as those bait fish come out, the wipers and stripers and catfish, in front of our creek mouths is amazing fishing in the winter. They're actually awful fishing the rest of the year.
Hmm.
Funny story here too. When I first got into trophy catfishing, watching Kayak Catfish, he does a ton of creek mouth fishing, a ton.
Yeah.
And my first like 2 months were the most miserable fishing months I've ever had because it's just creek mouth fishing here is awful. It's terrible in warm weather, but in the cold weather, it's fire because our back creeks are colder than our main channels.
That's interesting. And he's got some big creek mouths too.
Yeah.
I think that's what's different here too is when you think creek mouth here, like it's a creek, you can fit a boat in that creek, and that's probably it.
Hmm.
So it's an actual creek or a creek, and not a another river.
Hmm. Yeah, when I went down and fished with him, so we fished the Tennessee River where I want to say the clinch came in, and the clinch was just as big as the Ohio where it came in. I'm like, this is your back creek, and it's 70, 80 foot deep. I'm like, my back creek, if I am lucky, is 30 foot deep. Like that's a really deep back creek here is 30 foot deep. The Little Miami's deepest hole, then there's only one of them is 30 foot deep. And it's like a 15 by 15 foot hole. The rest of the river is between 15 and like 5 foot.
Yeah, on the Cooper, the back creeks are 4 to 12 foot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A creek.
Yeah.
Different rivers though, different, different geography, and so I guess those definitions. That's a good topic. What's relative to your area.
Hmm.
What does a back creek mean to you? What does bait
Hmm.
mean to you? And that's a perfect segue into the next thing. So you on the Ohio, you have skipjack, correct?
Yes, we do have skipjack, but I'm actually in the school of thought that it's not our best bait.
Okay.
Where I live, we do have skipjack, but if you don't live within 5 to 10 minutes of the dam, do not waste your time. Do not drive down there because if they ain't running, they're not there.
Hmm.
So you got to have a friend who lives close to tell you if they're running, and then when you do go there, you're going to catch 10 to 14-inch skipjack if you're lucky. Like a 14-inch
Wow.
skipjack's pretty big here. That's a
Yeah.
good size skipjack. You're normally going to get like 8 to 10, 12 inches. There's not a lot of really big skipjack here. So my theory is, well, if the skipjack aren't here as plentiful as they are elsewhere, well, they have to be eating something.
Hmm.
Like where I live, no skipjack around anywhere. You're not going to find any skipjack unless it's like the perfect time of the year, and at that point in time of the year, you're going to find fingerlings. Um, so I actually think our best bait is wiper because we have so much wiper. All my best fish and all my trips where I've caught a high quantity of fish, they've all been trips where I've had wiper because I think that's our most plentiful fish outside of other, bluegill, shad, etc. And I'm also in the train of thought that when fish get bigger, they evolve. So as you get bigger and you grow up, you need more nutrition. Shad can only give you so many nutrients. Even if you like 10 pounds of shad is not the same amount of nutrition as 10 pounds of wiper. It's just,
Hmm.
I mean, it's just not. So I think evolutionary fish also eat the more nutritious stuff. I don't think they have the thought process like, oh, I'm going to eat this because it's going to give me vitamin B. I'm
Right.
not saying they have that. I'm just saying it's an evolutionary thing. I have a feeling if you took two fish that were both 10 years old, but one mainly targeted wipers and one mainly targeted shad, that one that targeted wipers is going to be considerably bigger because it just got that much more nutrition all the time.
That's interesting.
I
Health
mean, it's
food
just,
for
and that's a theory,
catfish.
by the way.
Health food for catfish. That's a great title.
Yeah, and that's a theory, by the way, but I think it makes sense, and my results have supported it so far.
Well, we've already discussed how the force is strong with you, and I really like this theory. I really like this theory, and it's just kind of stunning and startling to hear somebody say the opposite of what everybody else says. So, me personally, you've got my full attention, and I'm loving every moment of this. Now, here in Iowa, we can use baits that other people aren't allowed to use. Now, we're not supposed to use game fish, but I think technically you can use anything that you've caught yourself that's of legal size, and you caught it in those waters on rod, reel, hook, and line.
Same here.
And so last year I caught a really big channel cat on a piece of crappie, and everybody probably would have ate the crappie themselves. But I'm the guy that, no, I don't want to clean the fish. I want to catch and release. But someone gave me the crappie, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't catch anymore, so here, you want this?" And I mean, to be honest, the guy was drunk. I mean, he was smelling very bad of alcohol, and he was not driving. He did have a driver, but he wanted to match some bluegill or something else with this crappie, and he didn't catch anything else. And even then, he said someone else gave him the crappie. So we get back to the whole point that, hey, if you're fishing and you catch a tremendous, awesome fish, this was a 14-inch crappie. If you're not going to keep it for yourself, put it back and let it live,
Yeah.
But at this point, the crappie could not be revived. I actually did take minutes to try to revive it, and it wasn't there anymore. It had already passed on and just didn't have enough to giddy up and go. But so we turned it into some catfish and had some fun. But the
That- That's
the
actually my
wiper.
main bait is crappie. That's my
Oh.
personal main bait. Yeah. It's the
Hey,
easiest.
did we just become best friends?
Yeah, it's the easiest, most attainable bait for me in high quantities and low time. Outside of shad, obviously, you can go net a shad most of the year in a high quantity relatively easily. Relatively, let me make that perfectly clear. This time of year, I got so lucky this year, or at the end of last year, the very last day of the year, we had a warm spell. All the water shot up like 5 degrees, like the very last day of the year. I dragged a marina, and I was able to get a year's worth of good shad that night after the fishing trip. It was unbelievable. Now, I never had that luck before, ever in my life. So the winter time is normally the time that I'm dreading fishing, which ironically, I have all the bait in the world in my freezer right now, and I can't use it because of the river situation. It's so frustrating. Whereas the last 2 years, the river really wasn't that bad, but I mean, good luck. It's so hard to find shad in the winter sometimes. It's the easiest and the hardest. Go watch Hagen Grubb's video. If you can find them, you're going to catch hundreds of them at the time. But if you don't find them, you're not going to catch any because they're schooled up. And especially in a kayak too, I'm limited. I can make conservatively with my setup a 5 to 6 mile run any direction, fish all day, and then make it back without any real risk of running my battery dead. But 99%, I'll be honest, 99% of kayak setups can't do that right now. I'm running a 100 amp hour lithium battery, which is like,
I know a battery guy.
I'm sorry?
I know a battery guy.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a battery guy? Yeah, like I don't even know what my limits are because I haven't come close to hitting them yet. My buddy and I mothershipped him for a 10-hour fishing trip against 1.5-mile current. I had him mothership to me the entire 10-hour fishing trip. I would just go up the river and we would suspend drift back, and I would go up, and I didn't sniff killing the battery. So I really don't know how much it's going to take to kill this. I've done weekend camping trips, never charged it once. No clue. Clueless when I'm going to kill this thing. But
Well,
yeah, we're
it's easy
limited.
to figure out. We just have to determine what all you're using, what draw it actually has, and then we can get the old battery calculator out, and so. But we
Ah,
Yeah,
can
Mike,
yeah.
Mike can figure all that
I was going
out.
to say, I hit you up after. Yeah.
If you think about it simply, in fact, I was talking to someone today, and they said that they had a 92 amp hour battery that they were targeting purchasing to run their trolling motor because they run their trolling motor more than they run their other motor.
Mhm.
But they were wondering how long it would last. And the answer is 18 and a half hours.
Oh, wow.
And that's because the average draw for a trolling motor is 5 amps. But I'm sure sometimes it peaks a little above that. And then I'm sure it usually runs below that. Because anybody that I give any calculation to, they're always like, dude, man, I went way past that. I thought I was in trouble. And I'm like, well, I can't guarantee you anything other than what data you give me to do the calculation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you have crazy people like Elston who just brings black light after black light after black light and keeps hooking it up to the same battery, hoping that it'll last forever and ever and ever. And you know what? It hasn't died on him yet, which I'm shocked. So somewhere his data has to be incorrect. One of those lights probably doesn't draw that much, or he turns it off quite a bit and then uses it or whatever. But yeah, man, if you got a 100 amp hour lithium battery, you got quite a power source.
Yeah, it's insane. And the size of it's not really that big, which you could probably get away with a 60 amp hour on a smaller kayak very, very safely. By 100, it's only 20 something pounds. And it's kind of nice offset because the motor is, I want to say 30 or 40 pounds. It's really not that heavy. And then I got this 20 something pound in the back. So it's a decent offset. But back to the crappie. The reason crappie, I branched off the conversation. So
It
I can,
happens. Don't worry about it.
so if in the summer months or the warmer months, I control crankbaits and catch a limit of, like, the lake I like to do it at, East Fork Lake, has a 30 crappie limit, 9-inch minimum. I don't keep anything under 10 inches, but I can catch a limit of crappie in 2 to 3 hours tops. Like, honestly, 2 to 3 hours tops. If you want to go catch the equivalent in weight of skipjack here, even when they're running, good luck. Go camp out for the weekend. Like, go camp out for the weekend if you want to catch the equivalent size. Now, skipjack is more than likely the superior bait. Like, don't get me wrong. I admit the whole oils, etc. But at the same time, I think we have more crappie here. I think if it is superior, it's not enough to justify the time it would take for me to get the same amount of weight. Because everything with me is about efficiency. So it's like, okay, I can go catch 10 pounds of skipjack in this much time, or I can go catch 10 pounds of crappie in this much time. But that means I can go catfishing for 20 more hours doing it this way, and I can only go catfishing for 4 hours doing it that way. So, like, those are all I used to put everything in a spreadsheet. I'm at the point now where it's more just all mental math. Like, okay, I know what I've done in the past. I'm going to go hit these certain things. But those, like, the biggest advice I give to anybody, spreadsheet everything you do. And that way, when the next year or the next season rolls around, you can sort what you did the year before and see what was more and less efficient. And then the time on the water, you cannot catch catfish if you're not fishing for catfish. So I know some.
I disagree.
But, like,
I catch catfish when I'm fishing for panfish all the time.
Oh,
I know that's not what
yeah,
you meant. I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
But, like, dude, I'll be honest. I always have some form of grocery store meat on me at all times as backup bait. I will not give more than a half hour to an hour for bait ever, because I fish once a week. I fish 8 to 12 hours.
See, this is what I like, because this is exactly the point that we talked about a couple weeks ago when I was talking about dark water baits. So it's the same thing. Like, I have one day a week. It's usually a Saturday. If I get lucky, I might have a day off for a national holiday, and then I get to do that too. But I'm the same way, man. Like, if I can't find it quickly, then I'm going bought bait.
Mm-hmm. And there ain't no shame in it. Look at Jimmy.
I'm not shameful.
Jimmy with because sometimes people poop on it. Like Jimmy. Oh my, I'm on his pro staff. We're
Fishing
on his
and
pro
gear.
staff.
Fancy drifters.
Yeah, Sandy Drifters, fishing gear. The guy only uses chicken, like,
Yep.
primarily, and he's catching monsters like all the time. So I think people just kind
Well,
of
and he's got time on the water, and that goes back to what you
that
said.
too. Yeah.
Like, he'll fish 4 days a week, and he's not always catching, but because he's putting that time in the water, he'll get a nice one, on the third trip or the fourth trip or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
You mentioned store-bought bait.
oh, go ahead.
It sounded like that was multiple options.
Anything
Or
that's
all-
meat.
Okay.
So it's the amino acids. I'm a big fan of chicken just because it's really, really simple. So the olfactory system, no science lesson, no biology lesson, but the olfactory system on a catfish, they're tasting everything in the water nose to tail. So they have all these little sensors on them, blah, 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 without going into great detail. So if you can get amino acids and stuff going down the river towards them, and if it hits them, they know it's there. They know there is meat there. There's something that they can consume up the river or wherever is around them. So you just need to get meat. So if you find something in high amino acids, you're good, which was a main reason why people used to like liver and stuff so much. I'm a big fan of just chicken breast, because if I want to use big baits, I can cut a 1 by 1 inch square super easily. If I want to use a small bait, if I want to use a big bait, I can cut a 4 by 4. It's really simple. So that's why I like using chicken. I have turkey as my backup bait now, because I'm a decent bowler, and every year there's this tournament called Turkey Bowl. If you string 5 strikes in a row in a session, you win a turkey. So I bowled 3 sessions this year, so I won 3 turkeys. Unfortunately, you can only win 1 per 5 strikes in a row. I would have won like 7 or something like that, but whatever. Whatever. I'm, bowling. Ooh, you're good at
Oh,
bowling.
I love bowling. We're not going to nerd out on bowling.
We can.
Yeah.
let's
I'm
get
sure-
let's get into channel cats. You catch a lot
Love
of
'em.
channel cats.
Love
So
them.
tell us, and so do you have a experience with like the 3 main species, or is it mostly just channel cats?
The most experience I have is with blues, but I have a
Okay.
lake around here called I call it Baby Sandusky. Sandusky Bay is known for having some of the best channel cat fishing in the
Right,
world,
I've heard that.
arguably, but probably for sure in the States, but arguably in the world. And there's this local lake here. It's a 9.9 horsepower lake. Doesn't get hit hard at all, and there's no blues. It's all flatheads and channels, but the channels there get huge. I couldn't tell you the last time I didn't catch a 10 to 20 pound channel there on a trip that I've gone. I've easily caught at least one the last 10 trips I've gone, at least one. And it's a good numbers lake too, which is rare. A lot of times you won't get big with numbers like Grand Lake St. Mary's. There's a very slim chance you're going to catch a 10-pound channel, but you're going to catch 30 of them. At Cowan Lake, you're going to catch 30 channels. 5 of them might break 10 pounds. It's insane. And pound for pound, personal opinion, best fighting catfish of the 3 big species. Pound for pound.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, from start to finish. Now, unfortunately, the better water, I don't want to say better water, but the bigger water fishermen, channel cats normally don't get as big. They normally become food for the bigger catfish in those river systems. So they don't experience a big channel cat fight. So they'll experience a 5-pound channel, reel it up really quick and get upset because, oh, pesty little 5-pound channel. But if you get a 15-pound channel on the line, it feels like a 40-pound blue. Like a 15, 20-pound channel feels like a much bigger fish, and they don't quit. How many times have you reeled up a big blue or flathead and the initial run was huge and then they just kind of quit? Or there was no initial run and then they get to the boat and then they fight for a little bit. Eventually they quit. Channels the whole time. And they're almost impossible to picture. In the tournament scene, almost, especially big ones, are almost impossible to picture because they're constantly flopping around. Flopping around. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, my experience, the bigger ones, they don't fight much at all. They just have that tail power, and they get that one slow whip, and that's how they're traveling so much. They're really a lot slower. Now, I haven't caught a lot of big fish, so don't take my word for it. I was just telling somebody's messaging me right now, and I said, that's what I say on my channel. I don't know what I'm doing, so don't do what I do.
Big fish is relative, though. I try and explain it to people.
Yeah.
Like, and you got to set your expectations and you got to set your success at what your success should be. I stress that with people so much. If you go and fish Markland Stretch where I live, the Markland Dam, and if your expectation is to catch a 50-pounder every single time you go out or a 40-inch fish every time, you're going to be very disappointed because I know people who have put thousands of hours on this river and haven't broken a 33-pound fish. So, like, my stretch of the river, you catch a 20-pound fish, you caught a good fish. Be proud, be happy, post it. And if people want to ragdoll you, they can block them, for lack of better words. I'm censoring myself.
Well, usually those people aren't even fishing.
Because that too.
An actual angler that's out there fishing would never trash another guy for a smaller or a quote unquote smaller fish.
And the local guys know what you're doing.
I don't even listen to those guys.
Yeah, and the local guys know what you're doing. Like if you look at any tournament series around here, if you catch 50 pounds and 5 fish, there's a very, very good chance you're either going to cash or place relatively high. That's just a fact. I'm not dogging the river. That's just what we have to offer. Of course, there will be the occasional 90-pound bag, 100-pound bag, etc. But the Rising Sun tournament, the average fish is typically under 5 pounds per. Like if you take out all the weigh-ins, etc., the average fish is typically under 5 pounds. It's just what we have. So be proud. When I go out and catch a 10-pound fish, you'll like, I'm excited because I'm excited. That's not fake. I'm excited because I did good. So you struck a nerve with me there. because people tell me all the time, like, they get depressed with the size around here. And I'm like, don't get depressed. Love the sport. Love it. Go embrace it.
Well, and then there's, we talk about equipment a lot on this show, and I think those water systems that don't hold giant fish, and you can't fish anywhere else, fish with smaller tackle, have more fun with it. Get you a medium light rod or a medium, and some lighter line so that it's actually a challenge to get in a 15-pound fish or a
Mhm.
10-pound fish, as opposed to having like a big cat fever medium heavy with a pin squall on it. Yeah, it's it's gonna feel like nothing,
Mhm.
on the
Mhm.
rod. So, and I've been doing that here recently. I watched Chunky Cats, as we all do, and he got in this mood where he was catching smaller fish from the bank, so he downsized to lighter action rods, and he had a blast with it.
Mhm.
And so I was like, and now, granted, those lighter rods can pull in a state record. I mean, we often go back to the world record blue cat, which is 143 pounds, and that was caught on an ugly stick catfish rod.
Mhm.
So they can still do the trick. It just will take you longer to do it, and you have to
Yep.
have more skill to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what I tell people. Is if you want to have fun catching the fish that are available to you, downsize your equipment,
Mhm.
or whine about it and be unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and like the point earlier, we go fishing once a week, so and we're trying to do the YouTube thing. We can't afford getting skunked. Like, we have to put fish in the boat to make a video. We
Yeah,
don't have a
tell me about
choice.
it.
So if I have a bunch of 7/0 out there with giant baits and I'm getting hit all day and I'm not reeling anything in, that's an awful
Mhm.
video. Or I can go to a 5/0, slightly downsize the bait and catch those fish and explain what's going on. Like, get
Mhm.
more people out on the water, etc. Like, hey, look, I went from right now I'm running, or not right now. Right now I'm all 5/0, but up until the transition, I run primarily double hook rigs. I had a 7/0 and a 5/0 on every single double hook rig, and once that 5/0 starts outperforming that 7/0, everything goes to a 5/0. And then as we get warmer, once I miss a few fish, I will start switching to half 5/0, half 7/0. And then once the 7/0 starts outperforming the 5/0, everything becomes a 7/0. I lose a few more fish that way. I lose a few more potential bigger fish that way, but I catch
Mhm.
a ton more quantity that way. A ton more quantity
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah. That's a great
Why do
point.
you why do you say that you miss out on more big fish? Do you feel that not presenting them a big bait makes you miss them, or do you feel that what's making you say that?
My guess is when I have the smaller presentation on, I'm missing hook sets. So the majority of the time, if I have a big hit, if like, let's say I'm half and half, 5/0, 7/0, and I have a big hit and run and it's rip and drag and I reel up, the 7/0 still has bait and the 5/0 doesn't. Now, of course, they could have had the 7 and then the shaking of the line could have threw the 5 off, but it happens so often that it it doesn't feel like it's random. Does that, you know what I mean? It feels like,
Yeah.
okay, they hit that 5/0 and that 5/0 just didn't hook up with them. Now, I've caught a lot of really big fish on 5/0s, don't get me wrong, but let's be fair. The bigger the fish, the thicker their mouth, the smaller the gauge of your hook, it's going to have a tougher time hooking
Yeah,
them.
you're gonna end up skin hooking a lot of big fish
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not getting through that pad, that lip.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now you can get through with a 5/0, but chances are most times you're gonna skin hook it or right there in that soft tissue in that
Yeah.
corner mouth.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
see what you mean by that.
I've actually had a handful of channels because I only fish with 5/0s for when I'm targeting channels. I've had a handful fight themselves off, and their face is still on the hook, like, because they fight so hard. They get to the boat and then they're gone. They didn't snap the line. Their face is left on the hook because the 5/0s, it's a smaller diameter hook, so it's by default sharper, so it's easier to just rip through their face. And so people know I run Daiachis. So a 5/0 Daiachi is like a 6.5, 7/0 Mustad Demon, a 7-knot Daihachi is like a 8.5, 9, just so people understand. Because like somebody might go grab a 5-knot of another brand and be like, he uses that thing. And I run Daihachis. They run historically bigger. I wish hook companies would just standardize like, hey, if it's a 5-aught, that means the shaft is this long and the width of the gap is this long. It seems like every company makes a hook, and then every hook they make bigger, we're gonna go 1-aught, 2-aught, 3-aught from here, and we're gonna go 2, 4, 6, 8 from there. Like standardize this. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I have an issue. Well, not an issue, but people ask me all the time on live streams and stuff. What size hook do you use? And I tell them, and I'm like, well, it just depends on what brand you're using because the Mustad Demon 10-aught, which is what I primarily use, is a smaller hook than a Daiichi, for instance, 10-aught hook, or a triple threat from Whisker Seeker. It's not nearly as big as that, but it's considered a 10-aught hook. So I agree. I wish it was standardized. Hey, Big Mike or Boom Squad members, I just shared it out. I forgot, Mike, that I didn't click the members only button on the stream, so they missed half the stream.
Oh, bummer.
Yowza.
I know we'll go off topic with this one comment. The other thing I'd like to see standardized out there are the machines that you pay, like at the grocery store or at Walmart. What's that little thing called? The little card reader or whatever. I can't remember all the time what button I push when I don't want to enter a PIN because I don't give myself a PIN number. So I'm constantly canceling out my orders and having to ask someone for help. And, now they don't want to help you. They, everything's all that checkout.
Like, I remember the day that Miguel gave me a hard time because I was trying to order something from Whisker Seeker and I didn't have my Google Pay set up.
Yep.
And now he's talking about sounding like an old dude. I don't know which button to press on these blasted machines.
Some of them you push OK, and the other ones you push cancel.
Or you can just get a PIN number like the rest of America.
Then I'll start taking money out. I can't do that. I spend it anyway.
My pet peeve
spend
is
it at
ATMs.
Whisker Seeker.
My pet peeve is ATMs. So in the very beginning, some of them ask you if you want to check your balance, and if you hit no, it just cancels the whole transaction. And it's like, what? What are we doing here? But then you hit yes. Like, this is no joke. There are some ATMs around here that do this. You have to hit yes to get to the next screen. And at the very final, it's like, we're charging you this for checking your balance, and we're charging you this for using the ATM. And it's like, well, I couldn't get to the next screen. It's such a crock. It's so frustrating. It's $6 to pull out money. So if you want to get $20, you're spending 26. So if you don't have a feature with your bank that pays your ATM fees, there are some bars around here where it's like, this is so annoying.
All right, so
won't do it.
Yeah, let's move on. So we talked about YouTube channel, and for those of you who haven't caught up yet, Kayak Mike does fish out of a kayak. So I want to give you an opportunity to plug your kayak. I know that those guys take care of you. So what do you fish out of?
I fish out of Jackson Big Rig, my previous kayak, and my favorite kayak of all time is the Jackson U-Pick. I moved up from the Jackson regional team to the Jackson Pro staff team this year. So, the perks. Yeah, so the perks are, I get a free boat every year. They want me in a new one every year to promote it, and then I can do whatever I want with the previous boats. I just sold my U-Pick, and that hurts because I really do love that boat. But to do what we do most effectively, it is nice to have a little internal storage. So it is nice to have a little. If the U-Pick could just figure out internal storage to make wiring just a little easier, that, in my opinion, the U-Pick is the best fishing platform in kayak fishing, period. That's just my opinion. The Big Rig's amazing, but it's a limited audience. You have to have a trailer. The U-Pick, I card topped my U-Pick. It's probably the biggest you want to go on a card top, but I card top my U-Pick. In full disclosure, I paid full price before I got on the team and stuff. They didn't come out to me and offer me stuff. I'll never shill anybody, any product ever. There are things that I don't like about the U-Pick and the Big Rig that I am very blunt with everyone on every forum. Anybody I work with, Great example, Sandy Drifters. Love Sandy Drifters for mud bottoms. I don't use them for rocky bottoms because I get hung up too much. Like that's just, you know what I mean? And I think transparency is key. So yeah, Jackson Kayak, love the Jackson Kayaks. I think there's such a big difference in every single one of their brands that you can truly find what you want. Whereas there's a couple other bigger kayak companies. You got this kayak, and then you got a smaller version of that kayak with a different name, and then you have a little smaller version of that kayak with a different name, and it's like, are you guys really inventing new kayaks, or is it just a slightly smaller kayak than your bigger kayak? So it's just, if you go to the Jackson's website, every kayak is completely different. No two kayaks are remotely close to being the same kayak. So there's my plug for Jackson. I love Jackson to death. Couldn't be more happy to be part of their team.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of agree with Big Mike. I don't know if I'd be comfortable in a kayak, but I've yet to try any kayak, so I'm gonna reserve my comments from now on until I can try one.
If I put you in the big rig, if you've ever been in a John boat, and if I put you in my big rig, you'll be like, this is safer than any John boat I've ever been in my life. I grew up in a John boat.
Are you going to bring that to CatCon?
The big rig? Oh yeah, the big rig will be there.
All right, I'm going to sit in it.
Go for it. Yeah, it'll be. I have my brand. This weekend. I'm going to Kerr Lake to fish with the 1-tonners, and the reason I'm going there was my new trailer on the Water Innovations, I think they're called. They made me a new kayak trailer. I paid for it. They didn't make me one. Let me make that perfectly clear. So I'm going, but they're kind of near Kerr Lake. So I'm going to Kerr Lake to fish with them. I'm going to smoke them in an eating contest on Sunday. And then Monday, when I'm miserable and hungover from all the pizza that I ate, I'm picking up my trailer and coming home. So when you see me at CatCon, the big rig is going to be completely decked out and on top of the trailer, the same way I did at the Cincinnati Expo.
I'm curious to sit in one, and just, my thing is I know that one will float me. I've seen some big guys in kayaks, but I have restless legs, and my back gets stiff, and I just want to make sure that if I sit down in one, that I'm gonna be able to last, because I do some long fishing sessions, and you see what I fish on. So
that
I
pontoon is beautiful.
Walk around and stretch out, lay down, sleep, whatever I want to do. Well, hey, we're getting short on time, so I want to go ahead and make sure we get to this. You have kind of, started a new trend in our catfishing community with the Fishing Chaos app. And for those of you who are listening, I have the website on the screen here, and I'm scrolling through it. And basically, it's an online fishing tournament platform where a host like Kayak Mike can start a tournament and invite people to the tournament, and you can compete. You're not just catching catfish, but any type of fish. And basically, you enter in your picture with an identifier, and Mike will expound on this, but you can compete against people from all across the country. And I think it's really interesting. I got to compete in January. My first one, I made some mistakes, but I didn't finish last. So I was happy with that. I was third place out of 4 that actually caught fish. But I'm going up against Dan and Kyle. But anyway, I think it's great, and I can't wait. I took February off because of CatCon and all the massive amounts of editing I have to do. But I'm really, really looking forward to signing back up in March. So, Mike, why don't you kind of tell us about this? You don't have to go all the way back when you started, but hit the highlights for us.
So I host a regional scene. I help host a regional scene, and I guess you could say I'm El Presidente of the online catfishing tournaments. The regional scene is called Kayaks and Cats. That's Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana states only, and only those waters. So you don't have to live in those states to compete in that one. That one's purely Facebook driven, but you have to compete in those waters to be able to compete in that regional event. And then the one we're going to highlight here is online catfishing tournaments. That's also on the Facebook page. I do all the communication through the group and my personal Facebook and like personal Facebook profile. So if you have any questions, hit the group up or my personal Facebook profile. I only created a page for online catfishing tournaments so I can post in the group as the same name.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, the events are held on Fishing Chaos. So if you go click on Fishing Chaos, you can go find the groups. There will be a section for groups. You click on groups and you go find online catfishing tournaments. You click on there, you go to your tournaments, and all the tournaments that we offer, all the series that we offer are inside of there. Um, Long story short, how I got into it was I started trophy catfishing, like we said earlier in the podcast, and I saw JJ was competing in online tournaments. So I'm super competitive by nature, like extremely competitive by nature. I'm like, all right, I want to be competing against these guys, and a lot of us looked up to JJ at the time. So I'm like, how cool would it be to be competing against the dude with, at the time, 40, 50,000 subscribers on YouTube? So I go in, register, compete in a few things, and then I start helping out with the regional scene. And then so many people wanted to jump into the regional scene that we were like, all right, we'll just go national. So we just started a national scene from there. It's been awesome. We've had a lot of competitors. We've had just under, I think, 300 unique competitors last year. I think that was roughly the number. It was like just under 300 unique competitors. Now, in the catfishing world, if you get 5 to 10 anglers in an event, on an online event, especially a national online event, you're having, historically, that's a decent tournament. Now, we're hoping to grow the numbers this year. I think the sweet spot is going to be those regional events. I really think that's where the sweet spot lies, because some of the pros and cons of running an online event, especially a national online event, is like we were talking earlier, environment. Bodies of water, they're just not created equal. States, and I think this is actually a bigger factor, state laws aren't created equal. So for instance, in Ohio, inland Ohio, you're allowed 2 rods. There's very few places that catch blue cats inland Ohio. So somebody inland Ohio more than likely isn't going to enter a national tournament, because it's going to be much tougher for them to get on the percentage of fish as somebody in the Tennessee River. Hell, even somebody
Right.
on the Ohio River. You know what I mean? There's great flatheads in Ohio. Don't get me wrong. But to consistently catch 4 or 5 40-inch plus fish that might take it to win or cash, it's just more difficult. So the national scene is slightly tougher to get more numbers
Mhm.
in, but the regional events, and we'll hit on how I can help people run regional events too. I think that's really going to be the bread and butter, and max slot limit events. So we have this one event. Well, first let me explain the month longs for the 3 that we have.
Yeah, so those of you who are listening, I'm kind of scrolling through the January boat tournament, which I was entered in.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about this app is that, or website, if you're on the app, you're on your phone, but you can go to the website. Is you don't even have to be registered for these events to see the fish that are caught. And so if you log into Fishing Chaos and look up January month long boat event, you'll see Dan, Kyle, me, and Chad, and all the fish that we caught. And you get to look at all of them. And so you can just scroll through and see what a 37-inch fish looks like. Or if you want to go look at Dan, who won, you can see what a 46.5-inch fish looks like. So it's really easy to navigate. It's fun because it's kind of like, you know, I mean, there's really no pressure to it unless you really want to earn the money. Um, but it's just fun to measure it. It's lower stress on the fish, which is what I like. You don't have to keep the fish in a live well for 8 hours and then take them up to the weigh in, and let them go. Now, people do a great job with that. Don't get
They
me
do.
wrong.
They
There's
really do.
there's a lot of guys who invest a lot in their live wells with oxygen and bubblers and fresh water. You know, it takes it takes some engineering and some or a brand new boat that's equipped with that to do that. But you can. But for those of us who are maybe not tournament anglers in the professional sense, this is a great introductory way and a cheaper way to get involved into money tournaments without breaking the bank and without having to travel all across the state or the country.
Hmm.
So that's what I like about it. I can fish my home water whenever I want, and I measure my fish and upload them there. And I think the boat tournament was $60, which is way more affordable. Um, so yeah, that's my little spiel for it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and yeah, no, that's great. Trying to think, and the whole the I'll piggyback off that. There's always the argument. Somebody will always make the argument. You can't do length. You have to do weight because two 30-inch fish don't weigh the same. All right.
True.
I've I have hosted over 150 events. I have
Mhm.
participated in well over 125 events.
Mhm.
99% of these events, the person with the most length clearly had the most weight. Clearly had the most weight. It's not like, oh, half the time there's a tie or half the time somebody 10 inches off in second place would have had more weight. No, no, 99% of the tournaments. And the only tournaments that would ever even remotely come close are events where maybe two anglers are within an inch or two of each other. Then you would be like, okay, this one clearly might have a few more pounds over this one, but since we're doing it by length, but 99% of the time. Also, the regional events. Regionally, so the Scioto River Series is a fantastic example, and the Ohio Kayak Catfishing Trail is a fantastic example. Regionally, fish scale really well length to weight. They scale fantastically length to weight. So if you're all fishing the same body of water at the same time, so like the Ohio Kayak Catfishing Trail, there's 6 events over 6 different bodies of water throughout this year. We're all going to fish the same body of water at the same time. They all scale relatively the same. It's very
Mhm.
rare to have two fish of the same length be drastically different. I'm talking like
Mhm.
to the point where weighing is a better option. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's the only real argument against, what we do is like, oh, you can't do length. Well, I'm sorry, the numbers just they don't support you. I'll pull up any tournament you ever want to see historically online,
Mhm.
and you can go through the results. Every single person who won would have won with weight as well. So that's the only real argument against using length over weight. But also, like you said, one, you don't need a boat for a lot of the events that we do. You can use a
Mhm.
kayak or bankfish for some. Two, the most expensive bump board out there is $105. A live well,
I do recommend getting the biggest board. I
yes,
made that mistake. I got the $50 board, and I'm not happy. It's so much. It's so hard to measure big fish on it.
yes. My advice would be either get the most expensive board or buy the sticker. The sticker's $20 and DIY your own. I actually think that's the best option. The sticker, one, is the cheapest. It's only $20. And two, you could make your own, like no one out there makes a kayak or makes a catfishing measuring device. Every device that is big enough to measure our fish, they're all made from muskies. Every single one of them. So they're
Mhm.
flat. They're completely flat. And that's not actually the best way to measure a catfish. Something that would be scooped would be
Mhm.
the best way to measure a catfish. But muskie, you don't really need that scoop. So the muskie bumper, fantastic board. But I'll be honest, I'm a terrible DIY guy. But if you're a decent DIY guy, I would buy the sticker and I would just make my own board. One, it's $20, and then you could probably buy $10 to $15 worth of wood and make a legit, really good bump board, and specifically for your needs as well. Which is,
That's a good idea.
yeah, I love muskie
If
bumper.
you find a big enough piece of PVC tubing, you could just cut off 3/4 of it and just
Yeah,
stick it
yeah,
right down in there.
yeah. No, that's a really good idea. It just has to be
Mhm.
yeah. It would just have to be like
It has
wide
to be
enough to be able to
wide,
see the numbers.
like
Yeah,
maybe
that's
an
the most key.
8-inch board or something, 8-inch
Hmm.
pipe.
Yeah.
So
So yeah.
yeah, and people are saying it. The Boom Squad saying it in the chat. I like the length thing. And here's my argument on the length thing. You're right. A 30-pound catfish can be a different length than another 30-pound catfish, but we don't care about pounds. We're in a tournament for the longest fish. It's two totally different things.
Hmm.
So to compare weight with length, it's like, okay, well, pounds are not the question here. It doesn't matter what the pounds are, because my 30-inch fish could have just ate 5 pounds of mussels,
Mhm.
and yours didn't. They can be the same length, but they could also be the same length and different weights.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're gonna do weight, then yeah, do weight. If you're gonna do inches, then who cares how big it is? The fish, and I messaged you when I made this mistake. I forgot to put my fish marker in the picture, which apparently, it's a rite of passage. But I had a 34-inch fish. That fish probably didn't weigh, but I don't know, 9 pounds. But it
How's
was
it?
super long,
Mm-hmm.
super long. I mean, it was 34 inches, and I missed out on that, but that fish wouldn't have done me better in a weight tournament because it was scrawny.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I like the length better for a couple reasons. Again, just you can release the fish right where you caught it. Number one, and you don't have to worry about keeping fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot better for YouTubers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot better. A lot
You
better.
guys, you guys haven't mentioned the thing that I think about this is I still don't believe that two scales are made equally,
Mm-hmm.
No.
but a ruler
Mm-hmm.
is so many inches long,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that's a true standard.
Yep.
I can
There's
have
too many
a
variables with the scale,
yeah,
individual scales.
Mm-hmm.
way too
And
many.
Yeah.
and I'll let me debunk another theory. Some people think they always go like, well, it's online, it's easier to cheat. Well, if it is so much easier to cheat at an in-person boat tournament than it is in an online tournament. We don't have enough time for me to tell you how many ways you could cheat in a boat tournament. Like the easiest way is shove lead down their throat and then weigh them and then get them in the water really quick. I've heard people have done that. Like that's not an uncommon thing. Catch a fish that you know you're fishing a one-day tournament, catch it, throw it on a string or whatever. Those are two ways, and no one can prove anything unless the fish like dies on the way or pukes. The online event, and it's cheaper for us too. That's another big thing. Those big tournaments, they have to hire a polygraph. There's no getting around not hiring a polygraph.
Oh, the
Our
overhead cost for a weigh-in
yes,
tournament is way more.
yeah, we have no fees whatsoever. Like there's not a single fee that we pay. The only fee you pay is the app fee, which is like $1.50, $2 tops.
Mhm.
But that is you're paying for the anti-cheat system that's built into the system. So
Mhm.
when you, and I'll debunk a few myths and I'll tell you the true cons of using the online. When you submit a fish, you have to have your GPS and timestamp turned on. So it's going to tell me where you took that picture, and it's going to tell me where you submitted that picture from. Those are two different spots, by the way. And it's going to give me the time and the day that you caught it. So when someone submits a fish, I get to see if you submitted it from home. I technically get to see where you live. I get to see where you took the picture. I get to see where you took the picture itself, and I get to see the date and the time. So when you're fishing, let's say you're fishing a 24-hour event. If you here's everyone's like, oh, what if I catch a fish like a week ago and then take a picture and just wait? I'm like, well, I'm gonna see the date and time that you took the picture. Like the ESIF data gets connected to your picture that gets submitted. So
Well, and the tournament identifier doesn't come out until the
yes,
day before the tournament.
that's another thing. The tournament identifier. No offense, catfishermen. I don't know any of us that are good enough to Photoshop an identifier in. That's going to get past me anyway. I
I
mean, good
thought
luck.
about it, but
Good. I mean, it would be funny. Good luck if you get one past me. Hey, more power to you. But the money you spent teaching yourself how to get that good at Photoshop isn't going to be worth the amount of money you're going to win in the events, because there's a special identifier. We don't give that identifier out until the day before, like 3.5 hours before. So if an event starts at midnight, the identifier goes out at 7:30 p.m. I like doing that just in case somebody wants to wake up early. They can get their stuff done, go to bed, and not
Dan,
have to worry about it. So, oh, what?
Dan, man,
Wait,
Dan
what?
won that tournament. Dan woke up. So the January tournament started at 12:01 a.m. and he went fishing at. He started fishing at 12:01 a.m.
I
and
believe it.
caught his biggest fish on the day one of the tournament. I'm like, God,
He is an
72.
aggressive competitor. He
he's
puts
a,
yeah.
and that's I guess that would be the only thing is if you're going into this tournament scene, and the last thing I'm going to get you to do is just tell people how they can get involved. Um, but you need to realize that if you're entering this online scene uh, on Fishing Chaos right now, it's small. You know, for the people that are in it here, I know the regional things are probably bigger, but it's small right now. So if you fish a lake or a river that doesn't have big fish in it, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
In the open.
Um,
In the open
in
event.
the open, yeah. Now in a slot event, you might have a chance, but in the open event, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But if you're just doing it for fun, you're doing it just to compete, just to have that fulfilling, I mean, all of us. I mean, we all like to compete a little bit at least. I'm heavy with competition. I always want to be the best. So it makes you fish harder, it makes you fish better, it makes you think about what you're doing, and it's fun because you start up like a group chat and you're talking
Mhm.
to each other and ragging each other a little bit, and you know, now once it gets bigger, then you can have events like on the same lake
Mhm.
or on the same river. Now you also will set up a tournament for someone as long as they have a certain amount of people, right?
Yep. All I ask is that somebody, because I charge no admin fees whatsoever. So I ask people to make it worth my time. So if you have 5 people who want to run an event or participate in an event, um, let's say, oh, I don't have it up yet, but there's this gentleman who wants to do an event in Washington D.C. on the Potomac. I am going to set that up for him tonight. He is already running a bank event, but he wants to do it more official. So I'm going to set up a series for him for the Potomac River, and he's going to have his own series, and these people are going to register. Now his bank event is going to be ran on the online catfishing tournaments page. So as you're still the host, you're still the administrator. I'm just doing everything on the backside for you. And
Mm,
I just ask, give me like 5 people, because if there are 5 people in your event, it's easier to promote. So like I
mhm,
don't want to be setting up an event and then someone who's curious about jumping in, seeing 2 people competing against each other and like what, like that does kind of look bad. That's why I kind of want to like, hey, look, if we're gonna do this, if I'm
mhm,
gonna make it for you, let's make it worth everyone's time. So give me five
mhm,
people because that's a decent event, especially if you're putting 40-50 bucks into the pot. If you fish for a day and walk home with 200 bucks, I mean, unless you bought the world's most expensive bait, you made money. So that's a good thing for me. So yeah, on Facebook, my name's Kayak Mike. Hit me up on there. I'll set up anything you want. We already have an extensive rule book that goes over every scenario possible. So you don't have to worry about any kind of rules. And our rules they go into every scenario possible, but they're really simple. Like knock on wood, we have had no drama in our scene since we've started. There's been no one like yelling at each other. You'll go to some other groups and they're like always constantly fighting over rules. We haven't had that one single time, and we've been running for a year and a half now. So
good.
yeah, we have every rule out there for every situation, but don't let that 20-page rule book like, oh my god, I got to
I,
read it.
I didn't read it, yo, so I
Yeah,
didn't read it.
no, no. If you
Yeah,
put the fish on its right side, had the left eye up, and if I could see the
mhm,
fish in the picture, you follow the rules. That's
yeah.
that's you pretty much follow the rules.
And you can pretty much ask anybody, to
Yeah.
help you out. But we're running out of time. So Mike, or
Oh, can I
anybody,
plug one thing real? Can I
yeah,
plug
go
one
ahead,
thing?
go ahead.
So the month long options. There's a 5 fish open bank tournament, only bank fishing. 5 fish open kayak tournament. 5 fish open boat tournament. So if you're in one of those 3 events, it's going to be your 5 biggest fish on the month. Like we just said though earlier about the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin just said like if you're fishing in a lake that doesn't necessarily produce giant fish, any body of water that has catfish up to 30 inches. There is an option for a month long event. It's a 7 fish, 30-inch max slot tournament. None
Mm-hmm.
of your fish can be over 30 inches that you submit to this tournament. So a theoretical perfect score would be just under 210 inches, because if a fish hits that 30-inch mark, he doesn't count. He's an over slot fish. So if they're
Mm.
under 30 inches, so anyone can compete there. Anyone can compete there. Even your weekend warrior can go out And the fish, even if he's trophy catfishing, you're going to have bycatches that are under 30 inches, no matter what body of water you're fishing on. So if you don't want to, if you don't want to
I like
dedicate
that
all
one.
your
I might
time,
try that one.
yeah, and that's going to be my personal bread and butter. That's going to be the one I enter in. And the 7-fish 30-inch slot, anyone can enter, bank, boat, or kayak. Some people would say like, oh, bank and boaters don't have a rod limit. Kayak guys have to be 4 or their state limit. Bank and boat, they're just their state limit. Guys, it's 30-inch catfish. I don't care how many rods you have out. You can catch
And
7.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can fish all month long.
It's all month long.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's my thing. It's like, and I know Mike had toured around with the rod limits for the boat guys, but for the YouTube guys, it's like a deal breaker right there because we need a fish on camera, baby.
Yep. And that's the great thing about our scene too. We listen. I made the rule. I tried making the rule as fair as I could with the entire nation. And just so everyone knows, if you see a rule, the entire nation was accounted for when I made that rule. If our anglers who are participating don't like it, we'll change it. So we listen to our anglers.
You can catch a lot of 30-inch fish in a month on 4 rods. Yep.
I'll be honest. I wish some of those Sandusky guys would get in on this because they're only allowed to use 2 or 3 in certain spots. Justin Johnson does a lot of slot. I would like to see old JJ thrown from the slot. He's never lost a slot event. JJ, I love the guy. Absolutely love him. But he's never lost a slot event. My only goal this year is if he fishes one, I want to beat him. That's my only goal. He's never lost a slot event in his life.
That's a good goal.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys want to check out what we're talking about, go to fishingchaos.com. That's fishingchaos.com and check it out. Check out Kayak Mike on Facebook. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me as well, and I'll hook you up with Kayak Mike. If you don't know how to get in touch with them, I'm telling you, if you do it, there's different entry fees for each tournament. You can go check those out. They're not that expensive, and it's super fun. And the best thing about the month-long tournament is that you can fish at your convenience. You don't have to fish it all in one day. So, if you got an hour to fish, you can be in the tournament. So, go check that out. And thank you, Mike, for coming on the show. Thank you for hosting that and what you do for the community. I think it's really going to get bigger and bigger as more people get into competitive fishing and want a taste of what it feels like to be a tournament angler.
Awesome. OnlineCatFishing.com for gear.
OnlineCatFishing.com. Check that out for gear, and that helps support. What does that help support?
That's actually the only way I make money on this. But
there you go.
Because I'm just gonna be honest, I have no interest in making money off the anglers. I really don't. But
I'm gonna go get a shirt.
Oh, you're the best. I'm
gonna go as long as you got big boy shirts now.
They should. Real quick, very last plug.
Go for it, man.
If you cash, the first person to cash in an event and have one of our items in every single fish submission picture, they're going to get an additional $50 on their payout. Has to be the first person that so you could come in third. If the guys in first and second don't have don't have a piece of merch in every single submission picture, they don't get the extra 50. So if you come in third and that's the cash, if you have and it has to be, I can see receipts on this website. So don't go printing out a fake sticker you didn't buy. I'll know because I can see receipts.
So say the website one more time.
OnlineCatFishing.com.
OnlineCatFishing.com. When I put this up on YouTube, y'all, I'll put these links in the description so you can go check it out. If you're listening on the podcast, go check out the YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Check out the description if you want quick, easy access to these links. Man, Mike, thanks. Man, it's been a blast having you on. I know Miguel agrees as well.
I'm pumped for to see you guys at CatCon. So pumped.
Yeah, man.
I came into this a little concerned because I really didn't know anything about you other than what I've watched online, which I'm in your lives when you're live. I just haven't chatted very much. and I'm trying to watch you catch fish, and we were talking about how difficult that is for you guys in kayaks, and what effort you put in, and what a great job you do. But getting the chance to learn more how you think about your fishing was really, really interesting for me today. So
At
appreciate you.
CatCon, don't be surprised if I bomb Ryan Bortz's show. I did that at Cincinnati. we actually kind of tag team the kayak portion, the kayak fishing portion of the program. So I might do that again at this CatCon. It just depends on how much food I'm eating at the time, how many people I'm talking to.
Well, with
I'm
that
coming
being
for you,
said-
one-tonners.
Well, that being said, y'all, I'm gonna pray us out. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you for listening, as always. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another awesome podcast. We thank you for blessing Mike and I with an awesome guest. I thank you for Mike as well, Lord. And I just thank you for all the viewers that are out there, all the supporters, and we give you all the credit for all these things. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, everybody. You know the deal. Until next time, happy fishing.